What's up, you guys? Welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you are new, and a happy new year. Today's video is going to be one more video kind of for 2023, and we're going to be reviewing and ranking all of the books that I read in 2023. So 2023, I read 25 books in total, which is not bad. It's better than nothing, but my goal was 75 books. So it was kind of a crappy year in a lot of ways. I moved to a new state, got a new job, and it just wasn't amazing. It was just a lot of newness, a lot of time that I just didn't have to read as much as I previously had before, but that's all gonna change next year, hopefully. But since I don't have a ton of books to review, I thought I could review them while also ranking them. So we're gonna go from the bottom to the top, my very least favorite book, all the way up to my favorite for the year. We'll start with 2 stars, 3 stars, 4 stars, and then we'll go to my 5. I'm not going to be giving like a full synopsis of all these books because I think it would just be too long and too redundant, but I'll just give a little snippet, what I thought, and then we'll move on to the next. So without further ado, let's get into my 2-star reads, the bottom of the bottom. Okay, so I only have 2 books that were 2 stars. I generally don't rate books like that low, but these can kind of be interchangeable, but today, this is what I'm feeling. So at number 25, we have My Roommate is a Vampire by Jenna Levine. It's about a broke artist who is down on her luck and needs a new apartment that's a little bit cheaper. She finds one for dirt cheap, and it ends up being a vampire, and a little love blossoms from there. I just didn't really enjoy this book, to be honest with you. I found it to be very silly. I just found the characters to be super annoying, especially after they got together. It kind of felt like they just lost all of their own personal traits, and then the ending was just too silly. Too dang silly. 2 stars. The other 2 star that I have is Iron Flame by Rebecca Yarros. This was just the biggest disappointment I think I've ever read in my entire life. This is the second book to Iron Flame, which I will talk about in a little bit. So I can't really say exactly what it's about, but it just follows that. It's a sequel. And oh my word, this was so disappointing. I cannot even begin to tell you. I'm not going to go on a full rant right now. I do have a full spoilery reading vlog on my channel of this video, so if you want to see it, you can go to that. But yeah, it was just overall such a disappointment. It was way too long. Hated the characters so much. I don't think I'm going to be picking up book 3 because this was just so awful. Really hated this. Okay, then we move on to our 3-star reads. So number 22 is going to be The Other Woman by Mary Kubica, or Kubica? I don't know. But this one is about a family who moves to a new state, kind of trying to get like a new beginning. Some things happen in their past, so they're trying to restart, refresh, but then a woman gets killed down the street and stuff goes down from there. You unravel the mystery. I just thought it was okay. It was entertaining enough to listen to, and then when the plot twist finally happened, it just seemed like so quick for all this build up, you know? But it was okay. Okay, I think I have my numbers messed up. So number 22 is Once Upon a Broken Heart by Stephanie Garber. I feel like I'm the only person in the world that just thought this was okay. It's kind of a whimsical fairy tale about a girl who makes a deal with the Prince of Hearts. And then she has to get 3 kisses, something like that. I honestly kind of forgot everything that happens in this. And the thing I've learned about reading this book is that I don't think I enjoy the fairy tale setting. I felt this way when I read the Cruel Prince series as well. I don't know why. This is gonna seem so weird, but it honestly gives me a headache. And I don't know why. I just can't really imagine like a fairy tale setting like this. And I just thought it was just meh. You know, kind of forgettable. So 21, we have The Ex-Hex by Erin Sterling. This is about a witch who puts a hex on her boyfriend, and then he comes back to their hometown to save it, and all this stuff goes wrong and they have to figure out how to reverse it. I thought this was super cute for what it was, being a little romance for the spooky season. I read this in October at the very beginning, and I thought it was a perfect way to kick off the fall, but it was nothing to write home about, you know? It was entertaining, but it wasn't like amazing, but I did really like it for the holiday season. Number 20 is The Bridge Kingdom by Danielle Jensen. This was a fantasy romance that honestly was a little bit forgettable. It was one of those situations where I really enjoyed it in the beginning, and then it kind of fell off in the middle, and then by the end I just didn't really care what was happening too much. Basically about a princess who has to infiltrate a kingdom akin to hers, and so then she has to end up like marrying this prince over there, and you know, love happens. I continue this series, I'll probably just read it on my Kindle because like I said, it was just okay and kind of fell off for me. At 19, we have The Inmate by Frida McFadden. I read this one pretty recently about a girl who gets a job at a prison working as a nurse. At that prison is her ex-boyfriend who is in prison for trying to kill her. So shit kind of goes down from there. And I just thought this one was a little bit predictable, but still fun and bingeable. Frida McFadden just has really great thrillers in that way, that the chapters are short, it's bingeable, it's quick, it's fun, it's easy. But I already kind of forgot that I read it, and I probably will never think about it again after this video. At number 18, we have All the Dangerous Things by Stacey Willingham. And I really loved A Flicker in the Dark, so I was super excited about this book. It's about a mom who her child goes missing, and then she has kind of like sleep issues and stuff like that. I just thought this was a bit slower than I would have liked it to be, but I thought it was still a good thriller. Some of these I have to look back on my Goodreads to see what I was talking about when I read this, because this was actually the first book that I did read this year, so it was a little while ago. But yeah, solid thriller, not a new favorite. It is more of a slow burn, and it has 2 timelines that goes back and forth between the past and the present, and it was a good one. I would recommend it, but not an absolute fave. Number 17 in the last spot for our 3 stars is going to be One Dark Window by Rachel Gillig. This is more of a dark kind of gothic fantasy. It has a little bit of romance. I wouldn't say it's a romantic fantasy, but it does have romance in it. It has a really unique magic system. It's like with a deck of cards, and it's really fun in that way. It was kind of similar to The Bridge Kingdom, where I really liked it in the beginning, and then I just kind of fell off. And it might have been just like a me thing with this one, I'm not sure, so I'll have to see the second one and see how I feel about that. But this is the top of the 3 stars. Would definitely recommend this one. Next up, we're moving on to our 4-star category, which is where the majority of my books lie. I don't rate a lot of books 5 stars, but I do rate a lot of books 4 stars. So here we go. Here's the first one. 16, we have The Butcher by Jennifer Hillier. I know I've said this before, but Jennifer Hillier is one of my favorite thriller authors, so I had to read this one. So this one is kind of all over the place, but back in 1985, a police officer was able to discover like the murderer of all these murders that happened around Seattle, and then in the present time, his grandson is the one that we're kind of following, and he finds something in his backyard that's a little bit troubling, and has to do with those murders back then. And it also follows his girlfriend, who thinks that her mother might have been part of those murders back then as well. But this was a really good book. This one is really unique in the way that you kind of find out stuff right in the beginning, and then you just watch the story unfold from there, rather than a plot twist happening like at the very end. So I really did enjoy that, and this is a very good thriller. Her thrillers tend to be a little bit darker, so just know that going into it, but this is a definite good fave thriller for sure. Number 16 is Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas. This is an actual reread, so it's gonna get kind of confusing. You'll see when I show my other books here, but I think everybody knows what this is about. So Throne of Glass, I just started rereading it a couple months ago, and yeah, I don't think it's the strongest book in the series, but she was like 16 I think when she started writing this, so not a big deal. But yeah, this is kind of like the bottom of my 4 stars. Still loved it. And then I have The Serpent and the Wings of Night by Carissa Broadbent. This is part of the Crowns of Nyaxia series. This is a fantasy romance, and it's kind of like a Hunger Games vampire world-esque. I don't know how to explain it from there. But yeah, it's like vampires, and then the main girl has to go into these trials, and she has to have this guy help her and be her teammate, and then they kind of from there, you know how it goes, you know. But this was really fun. It wasn't like an absolute favorite fantasy romance, and I kind of like forgot about it, but it was really fun while I was reading it. It was one of those things again where I think if I was like in a different spot, like mentally, I don't know, I probably would have enjoyed it a little bit more, so I'm excited to read the second one in the future. At number 13, we have The Kind Worth Killing by Peter Swanson. This is another thriller. This one is kind of crazy, honestly, but it starts off kind of like just a general blurb here. It starts off with a guy and a girl meeting in an airport, and then they plan together to have the girl murder the guy's wife. And crap goes down from there, as it always does. Why do I say stuff like that? But this is one that just keeps you on your toes, and twists are happening left and right, craziness goes down, and it was just a good one. There's some books that I don't have a whole lot to say about, other than there's just like good plot twists, fun time. This is just kind of one of those books, you know? The same can be said for our next book, which is Never Lie by Freida McFadden for slot number 12. This one is about a guy and a girl who are going house shopping, and they go to a house who used to be a psychiatrist, but she was murdered, and then a snowstorm happens, so they have to stay there and be there for a couple of days. And while they're there, the girl finds some tapes, recorded tapes, from the psychiatrist that lived there. It was super, super fun. I honestly thought that I knew what was gonna happen, and the plot twist was really crazy on this one. I was really blown away. And this is a perfect read, I feel like, for the upcoming winter season. This is probably one of my favorites from Freida McFadden. I think I like this one a little bit better than The Housemaid, to be quite honest. It was really, really good, and I definitely recommend it. So then at number 11, we have Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. So this year I read this one, and then I read the second one. This was so much better than her second one, but I think that kind of taints this one, unfortunately. But it's still a really good book, and I would recommend like just leaving it here and just reading this. But I feel like everybody probably knows what this one is about as well. Girl named Violet, she goes to a school where they do like dragon training and all that good stuff. The romance was good in this. The world was fun. It was a little lackluster. The writing still kind of sucked, but this was a lot more enjoyable than the second one was. And the ending on this one was really good too, but this is still a solid read if you want to read it. And at number 10, we have Heir of Fire by Sarah J Maas, and I feel like this is where it like gets a little confusing. So I read this at the very beginning of the year when I was first reading Throne of Glass. Yeah, so that's where it kind of falls in. So it's kind of odd, but I read this in January, and I'll probably read it again this January because it's the next book on my reread. But yeah, this is a great, great book. I love getting to meet specific characters in this one. I thought it was a little bit slower just because we have the introduction of a couple other characters as well. So you have a new point of view, stuff like that. But, you know, we'd love it here. This is fun getting into the top 10. Number 9 is The Only One Left by Riley Sager. I love Riley Sager, my favorite thriller author of all time. Was his newest release. It came out this summer, and it's about a caretaker who has to take care of a woman who supposedly murdered all of her family, her sister, her mother, and her father. So she goes there, learns the truth, and also the old lady that she's taking care of can't talk, so it has a lot of like typewriter messages and stuff to each other, which is so fun. This wasn't my favorite Riley Sager that I've ever read, but it was so enjoyable. It was really, really good. I really liked it. It's probably up there with some of my favorites. There's so many twists and turns in this one. I can see why people will be like, there's a little too many. But I think it's fun, and they're always so fast paced, but there are a lot of plot twists in this one. You might break your neck from this one, but if you like that kind of thing, I would definitely recommend. Number 8 is gonna be Wrong Place, Wrong Time by Gillian McAllister. This one follows a woman who is watching out the window one night when she sees her son murder someone else, and then she wakes up the next day and it's actually the day before. So every time she wakes up, it's the day before, day before, day before, day before, and she's kind of in this time loop in order to figure out what happened, why her son murders this guy. This was a very unique thriller in the way that it does that time loop aspect, but also it was very heartwarming, which I didn't expect. It just shows like the relationship between a mother and her son, her child, and kind of, you know, like a mother would do anything for her child. It was actually very sweet for a thriller, but it's really good. Number 7 is Local Woman Missing by Mary Kubica. This was so good, you guys. So it follows a couple different point of views. A girl goes missing in the past, and then a little bit later, a girl and her daughter go missing. And then the daughter ends up coming back, and so the town kind of is figuring out what happened to the mother, what happened to the daughter, why is she coming back now, what happened to the first girl that went missing. This just is really, really crazy. I did guess what was gonna happen, but sometimes I don't really mind that. The beginning chapters in this one are a little bit longer, but then after that, it's very, very short chapters, very fast paced. This is a very, very solid thriller. Number 6 is The Naturals by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. Probably already heard me talk about this, but this is such a fun YA mystery thriller. I've only read the first one, but this is a series of 4 books, and it's basically like young adult Criminal Minds. A group of, I think, about 5 kids. They all have different abilities that help them figure out murders, and specifically like cold cases with the FBI. If you've read anything from Jennifer Lynn Barnes, you know it's super fast paced, super quick. Chapters are really short. This one I read in about 2 days and it was just so much fun. Like, it was just so addicting, I couldn't put it down, and I'm so excited to read the rest of the series. Yay, my top 5. Number 5 is You Again by Kate Goldbeck. This is a reverse gender When Harry Met Sally. I've never seen that movie, but this definitely makes me want to. You can tell by the cover, it's very fall based, it's in New York City, it's very atmospheric. This kind of really reminded me of Emily Henry in the way that she kind of writes like woman fiction mixed with romance, it kind of seems like. That's exactly what this did as well. I really liked the writing, and this one was literally like a movie in my head. I had music playing on my phone, which I never ever do, but it just went perfectly with this book, and it made me cry, made me laugh. The characters are kind of insufferable, but you kind of enjoy them, or at least I did. This was really good and definitely one of my favorite romances of the year and of all time. Number 4 is The Assassin's Blade by Sarah J Maas. So now this is part of the reread. It's my second time reading it, and it was so much more enjoyable the second time around than the first time. I can remember the first time I was like kind of, oh, let's get this thing over with, which I felt this way too because I read this after kind of midnight, but it was a lot more enjoyable the second time around, and it just got me right in the heart. And you just pick up a lot more things when you reread, so this was amazing. And at number 3, I do have Crown of Midnight. I loved this book so much more the second time around once again. Again, you pick up on so many more things when you do a reread, and I just loved it so much. The ending is so good on this one, and I'm so excited to continue and read Airfire this month. Right, dun, 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 dun. Time for our 5-star reads, and I only have 2, but that's okay. Like I said, I give a lot of books 4 stars. Not a lot of books get the 5-star from me, so these are very special to me. At number 2, I have None of This Is True by Lisa Jewell. This was my very first Lisa Jewell book. It will not be my last. This one is an interesting premise and one that I've never read before. It's about 2 girls who meet on their birthday. They're birthday twins. They both turn 45. Alex is a podcaster who does podcasts about women who have changed their life and really like turn themselves around. And then Josie is the other girl who kind of feels like she's about to turn her life around and wants to be on Alex's podcast. So they kind of befriend each other. She goes on her podcast and things happen from there. It goes back and forth between the current timeline of what's happening, and then you also get to see what's like a Netflix documentary about their situation, and it's called Birthday Twins. This was just very fascinating. Like, I could not put this down. It's one of my favorite thrillers of all time. Very quick, very fast paced, and I still am thinking about the ending, which is really saying something. And the number 1 spot, my favorite read of 2023, is Happy Place by Emily Henry. I just want to hug this book. There are only certain situations where after a book, I just want to like hug it into my chest. You read something and it like, this is your heart and it just gets clenched. It just makes you just feel so good. That's what this book did to me. It's about our 2 characters, Wynn and Harriet, and they were engaged. They had to break it off, but they're going to their friend's summer house one last time for one last hoorah. So they want to make sure everybody's happy, so they have to pretend to be together while they're at their little summer trip. And this takes place in Maine, and just the environment, the setting in this one is so perfect for summer. The romance in this was so good, but it was also just amazing to read about like the friendships in here and the self-discovery that our main character goes through, and it was just so good. I definitely want to reread this maybe next summer, but this is definitely my favorite book of the year, and again, I think it's my favorite Emily Henry that I have read. Alrighty, so those are all of the 25 books that I read this year. I hope you enjoyed the review and the ranking of them, and I'd love to know your thoughts if you've read any of these books as well, and I'd also love to know what your favorite book of 2023 was as well. But I hope your new year is off to a good start, and I'm so excited for all the books that we're going to be reading in 2024. If you like this video, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss the next one, and I will see you guys in our next one. Bye!